Hey, bubbling, coming in, crushing this art. All right, welcome back. So right now we're breaking down air and earth from the perspective of like kind of how they were generated, right? So the first things first. If you watched my last video, thank you because you know what I'm talking about. Fire and water, right? So like we were talking about in the last video, we were talking about sparks at the end because we were thinking about, okay, we know a little bit about fire now. Yeah, okay. We know a little bit about water. Okay. So like, let's think about their relationship, right? So now, if we're thinking about just their relationship astrologically, because I don't know, otherwise you think I'm crazy. Fire is pure chaos, right? Pure like decisive execution. Like I want this, but right when it gets something, it wants to move on to the next thing, right? It's totally eyes on the future, right? What I call fire is future, right? Because it's like eyes totally out there, not in this world. You know what I mean? Whereas even if we think about air for a second, it's present future. Like it's still got its eyes on the future, but it's like, okay, we got to start from where we're at. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the difference. And then so now if we think about water is past present in that it's here for the present, like it's moldable, it's adaptable, it's receptive, right? But it's still in the past in that it holds, it contains, right? So then this is like the dichotomy between water and fire. So water is like the slowest moving thing, right? So this would be the thing that's like this is almost like the earth in a way, right? Because it's almost like it's not patterned though. It's like this is the slowest vibration, but that's why this makes the best battery, because like once you get let's say like molasses or like, you know, something very thick and sludgy, or like earth, right, is a perfect example. Like once you get like the currents of like a planet moving in a certain direction, it's like that's like sort of like a soul type of thing, because it's like something that it's like, oh my gosh, it's like because it's programmable and it's receptive, right? So it's not totally in its lane. Because the thing about Earth is it's funny because it's more a balance, right? Because even if I was talking about fire and I was like future, and I was talking about water and I was like past present. So why isn't water past, right? Because water is receptive, right? It's programmable. Versus Earth is that actual current and actual soul and actual individual and actual identity, right? That's earth. Like it's been concrete. That's something that's subject to break, right? But that's why it's past. Because once you have like an actual earth, an actual solid, it's something that like came about but kind of has an expiration date, right? Right. But so what I'm trying to explain is why fire's future and water's not past, right? You think there's this yang yin. But like earth is past because it's got its mind on the past, it's not flexible. It's got something in tune with fire to where it's going to do its thing or it's going to break, right? So it's like an individual thing that was created. Whereas like water is past present. It's like the thing that allows all those individual things to be created, you know what I mean? Right. So it's like it's like the battery, you know what I mean? Mm. So anyways, so now we got that. If we think a little bit about this fire's interaction with that, right? This would be like forging steel in a way, you know what I mean? So that's why it's like Neptune, I feel like, is full of like your dreams and imaginations, but beyond that, it's full of the things that you'd resonate with, you know what I mean? So that's because eventually, like the Fool, pure yang, isn't going to take anything with it that's not like substantial in a way. It's not going to like ride a wave unless it's a wave. So what I mean by this is like eventually, if it's just doing a bunch of random stuff to test out its abilities, if you think about this physically, this is like giving a kid who's not going to get burned a torch and telling him to like shape the steel, right? Like he's going to be doing it a bit on this side, a bit on this side. Like it's going to be totally uneven. He's not even going to know what he's doing. He's got no direction. Like But you know what I mean? If somehow, like, he just really wants to learn, right? And, like, eventually he just spends enough time isolated with the torch and steel, he's going to learn how to create something cool, you know what I mean? Even if it's not proper, has no form of technique, it's like, eventually he was like, whoa, look what I did, guys, you know what I mean? Because he just spent enough time with it. But it's like, at first, the pure, like, Pluto, Fool, like, working on Neptune is like, unless it's riding a current wave, it's just going to be learning and it's just going to be stretching itself, right? And what that means is it's not going to get anywhere because the steel, the vibration's not going to shift, right? So it's going to be doing this until it gets caught in a pocket, until it starts making a shape, and then it's going to ride that wave. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, anyway, but either way. So what this will do, either way, is that this very tense or this very chaotic on this very like formless and formable, you know what I mean? There's like executioner type like high frequency energy, right? On this low frequency like programmable battery, like the relationship is like carving, you know what I mean? So it's not like innate that like we're using a torch to form this net metal. It's almost like our intentions, our consciousness is like causing sparks every time we like try to get lost in a dream, and it's utilizing like us, like all of our energy, you know what I mean? Like our bit of like I feel like just spirit, you know what I mean? So it's utilizing our like spirit in whatever ways that it knows how to utilize, you know what I mean? Whatever forms or dreams or creations it knows how to get lost in, you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
So, but every time it does that, then it's like it's creating sparks, you know what I mean? Because this is like it's like lightning. It's like it is the generation of lightning. Because like this is the best way to put it. I feel like is like what the generation of lightning is there's a very tense, very high frequented area by like energy, right? As we put our like electrons, right? Yeah. Is lightning. And then there's the energy that's kind of like receptive to it, but it's also got less, you know what I mean? It's not that chaotic, you know what I mean? So then all of a sudden we have this like spurt, you know what I mean? So that's what every action of Pluto on Neptune would look like. It would look like a spark, and that would be air. That would be a balance, you know what I mean? So I feel like that's a good way to look at it. Anytime the Fool is like taking a step or executing, right? This will cause more like a spark, like for lack of better words, yeah, because it's like all this like positive energy getting caught up in this low density area, and it's like doom. So basically what happens is this original spark, I feel like, is very fragile, right? Because it's like, if you think about sparks in general, they just zoom out, right? Like they're not going to stick anywhere. So I feel like the only way that this would work is under the perfect conditions, right? So this is why I feel like, or at least make like a sort of air, like a spark that's generating into an actual chakra or into an actual like being, an actual like form, you know, an individual versus like a meta like dream, you know what I mean, or like goal or wave that you're writing, you know what I mean? Yeah. So basically, then this would be air. So like, yeah, we're like 8 minutes in, we got into air, right? So the idea behind it is that if there's no current and there's no consistent relationship between the yang and the yin, that this is just a lightning bolt. So any pocket, any explosion that happens, remember that word explosion, right? So right now, let me just explain that, because that's amazing, right? Because we have the yang and the yin, and when they interact, this is just lightning, them getting, the yang getting caught up in the yin, right? And this comes out as lightning, and then that, like we talked about, it is like, it will come out as lightning, and so what that will do is cause waves. You know what I mean? Even though this is the lowest formable, like, this is like denser than Earth, you know what I mean? Like, this is below Earth, but the idea behind it is that it's like, Earth is an individual, right? And Neptune is like what forms it. It's like you're going to be riding the wave that you were riding that got you to this planet when you're gone. like your spirit's still gonna be like, oh fuck, and then it's gonna be maybe a little bit closer, a little bit further, maybe a little bit more direction, maybe a little bit more lost, but then it's gonna be like, well, I'm bored, like let's do that shit again. And then it's gonna start sparking, right? So either way, because like pure spirit I feel like is almost like just yang, you know what I mean, in a way. But I feel like that would be like lies, because I feel like I don't want to put, like, we don't know what spirit is, you know what I mean? So I just feel like I don't want to put it that way. I'm just talking about an aspect of spirit, I guess, you know what I mean? Because I guess, yeah, that's just something he utilizes as creation, you know? Yeah. So, but anyway, okay. Not to get lost. So anyway, so we talked about how because of this relationship, this would be like carving, and if there is no actual like cycle or any consistent relationship, this is just going to be a lightning bolt, a couple lightning bolts, like a lightning storm. It's not going to be an actual chakra, an actual like molten like energy like ridden space, you know what I mean? Because basically the yang and the yin, even though the yin is formable and the yang is forming, like they are so pure like that they don't have like a space that's like livable or like individual, you know what I mean? Like they're always in a sort of like meta, you know what I mean? There's no, like, it's like how I feel like goes back to why there's no still. Like we have the idea behind things being still, but then even when like scientists look into things, they're like, man, no, this shit's wiggling and vibrating and shit. And then you got if you think about just consciousness, right when you go to sleep you wake up or have a dream. Like when do you get a moment where, unless you're taking a moment to do nothing, there's just nothing happening? Like never. You're always in it, you know what I mean? Like there's no moment where it's just the same thing happening to where you just know the future and it's like, oh, this is just what it is, you know? So, and that would be Earth, right? Just being in a routine and pattern. So, but pure Earth, I feel like maybe some people feel like they're lost in, right? They're like, man, I'm caught up in my 9 to 5 of this shit. I see my whole life played out in front of me. I don't like this shit. But then, like, even then, like, it's going to play through, you know what I mean? So it's like, I feel it. So anyway, I just feel like what I'm trying to get at is that the pure yin, formless, is like denser than Earth, but it's not individual. But I feel like that's not what I was trying to say. I feel like I lost my point. But either way, so now if we go back into the relationship, right? So we got these two polarities, right? And so this is causing like sparks in a cycle, but it only happens if they're consistently like in a relationship that works, right? Like the yang has put enough work into it to where the yin is actually in a wave that can receive that spark, and for it to keep sparking, you know what I mean? For it to be like this mutualistic like spiral into each other, you know what I mean? Or it could be like, yeah, the yang hasn't formed a spark, so like we talked about, it's the kid with his first time on a torch that's like a little bit happens but nothing really plays out, you know what I mean? He doesn't know how to develop a relationship to where like fire continually forms this amazing like substance, you know what I mean, for like maybe like a glass blower or something, like, or like just like a welder that they can turn that into money, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's like, but once that happens, right, so once we get past the point where it's not just an experiment and it's like you're riding a wave, you know what I mean, like you know where you're coming from, like you're working on this certain frequency, this certain vibe, this certain dream, you know what I mean, then we get this cycle forming like we talked about. We get this like potential. So this is where I feel like Aquarius and Earth routine pattern type of energy comes from. But I feel like this is also where conception and things like this come from. You know what I mean? So, because it's like once the yang feels like they're riding this wave to where they're consistently getting something new out of this, right? And like this is something they can be lost in. And then yeah, once they form that of the yin, and so like we've had all these previous sparks, we've had all these test errors, and now once the spark happens, once these two click up, it's gonna be like this. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but my uncle told me about this cool thing. It's like when out of waterfalls, what would happen sometimes because of like friction or some shit off the water, it create like these plasma balls that would just like hover above the water and like just be nuts, and people were like, oh my god, like it's witchcraft or shit like that. And then they studied what it was or whatever. But either way, it reminds me of that, right? So at first, what we have in a lightning storm is we just have like a spark. But when we get that sort of like in the middle of this, right? Because this would create a center, you know what I mean? And the center would be the dream in a way, because it would be like the spark, like the spark and the relationship would create the center. Because like what I was talking about before with like fire and water is these are both like so formless, like they're both not centered, they're both connected to spirit because or mystic things because like they're not individual, like they're like I don't know, but either way, so okay, so basically what would happen though is because this would be creating all this pressure in this circuit, right? Because like I talked about, the reason it would like turn into a spinning is like fire's like on the outside, but it's like not like outside the body, it's like just outside, like high frequency to where it's not conflicting with our atoms, right? Like light moves through the air, you know what I mean? So it's like that's fire. And so the water is like the slowest, like, you know what I mean? And so when we have like these things creating a sort of pocket, then the water is moving in this wave and the fire is getting caught up in it. And it's like a fucking like storm, like motherfucking shit, but it's like all getting like congealed into this dream, like it's all like and this is what conception is like on the physical level, is like what I'm talking about. Okay, at this point, or that's what it would map onto, right? So yeah, so then we'd have like this egg, right? The structure, this reception, which would be the perfect sort of carved out vehicle for the yang to like slide through, and then they create the sort of internal like pressure, because like pure physically or spatial, the way that this would look is like we talked about, the yin would be the shape, so it would play out as the current of the electricity, if that makes sense. Like the yin would be outside under, but it would be playing out this shape, right, making this like spiral or making this individuality. It would be in its frequency, right? And then the electricity would start getting caught up in this and start running cycles based on that shape, right? But that shape is like very slow meta in the background, why it's tuning into this, its soul, but like not its soul, it's Neptune, like why it decided to get lost in that individuality, that soul. And that'd be like the water. And then like, yeah, so we're developing the chakra, and basically what the water's doing is it's directing, right? Because we had the yang, the fool, shaping the water so much to where now it's in a wave. It's like now it is lost, and it's like be careful what you wish for. Now you made this creation, now you made this dream, you best live in it. Like you're gonna live it out and you're gonna experience what that means. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's the water though. This is the thing that's gonna drive you all the way like towards that. So now this air, this chakra is getting caught up in that, and it's like gaining all of this friction, right? Because the fire is getting lost in this. So it's like I feel like what happens is it creates all this pressure because we have this direction, like it is trying to form an individual thing. Like it's not like it's just like there is no current, you know what I mean? It's like a solid current, but it's going in on itself. It's not going anywhere else, but it's not even going in on itself. It's going into itself. It's going to realize its illusion, you know what I mean? So what it looks like is it going in on itself, but really it's like all of that going into realizing like what Neptune knows about like tether and like reception, right? And like then that would be its connection to you and Eunice, which like classically people call Uranus, right? And that would be like that actual shape that makes right there. So anyway, so then so yeah, so that's just a little bit about it, because like the creation, the yang, the active element, the you, right, now has all this potential, like it's fed, like, or it's in this wave, right, like even how we think about it now, it comes out as like the human race, right, like we have this solid wave generated of how we can get here, right, and now we know, like with our brain, what we do is we have like this active element, this active player, where we can control like what we connect to and what we get lost in, right? Like we control our bodies, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like you got all of that energy just playing out on like on not even the level of consciousness yet, but all that energy is playing out to your Uranus and like all of your meta planets on how to develop that, you know what I mean, and how to express you. Right. So basically, so yeah. So So your experience, if we just kind of sum that up, your experience with Yang would be your experience with like the executioner and like the pure like doer and like basically that, and then the receiver and like the yin, the shape that you're lost in would be like your yin, you know what I mean, or your Neptune.
Yeah.
Like that's why this would associate with high priestess things like where is my life teaching to? What is the general meaning? You know what I mean? What is the actual shape of me? You know, not just like life, like no Bible, no like cipher, which you know nothing like balanced or no like nothing can tell you about you. You know what I mean? Like and that's sort of the like shape that you're in, and so then the air then comes out as Uranus. It comes out as the seed. It comes out right when like all that energy is being densified on that shape, right? We had that water that's been programmed, and then now that fire is like willing, it's lost in it. So now we have like this like chakra developing, right? This energy ball, and now based on Uranus is how that energy is going to be utilized and densified, right? So it's like, for example, like the sun. Uranus was like, man, motherfucker, I want to like explode, like I want to be hot as shit, you know what I mean? And then Earth was like, man, I want to be like solid and shiny and fucking full of minerals and shit. I want to be like a fucking nurse, you know what I mean? And Venus was like, man, I want to be hot as hell. Like, I don't care about making it fucking showman worthy. I just want people want to look at me. They won't even want to fucking show me to people, but they gonna want to peek and be like, she'd be like, oh, she'd be dirty, you know what I mean? And then Mars be all over there. He's all like this type of energy motherfucker where he's like associating with Pluto. He's like, nah, you know, I fuck with Pluto, right? I wanna stir shit up here just like him. He's like, man, fucking B-man, like, I look up to you, B-man. Like, go be like, man. So anyway, so that's a little bit about air. We didn't even like talk about Earth, and we're 20 minutes in. We didn't even talk about Earth. But we talked about the beginning of Earth, right? So what the beginning of Earth would be Uranus. This is subside Earth. This is yin Earth, in my opinion. At least this is solidity, like not our planet. I don't know if you knew I was talking about that. So then the yang side, like top side of Earth, would be Saturn. Or like, no. Like the expression, which would be the yin side, the bottom side, which comes out as our top side in a way, is Saturn. So Saturn's the yin side of Uranus, the yang, like that idea, right? The potential, though. But anyway, I feel like maybe we should leave it there. What do you think? I feel like we'll talk more about densification, all these things, Earth, in future videos. Right now, I'll have to focus on a little bit for the videos I'm about to do, but I was just trying to get warmed up. So anyway, a little bit of thoughts. That's Bubbling Citra Beach. Hey.